My name is Leela Carter. I'm 33 years old, and if you had asked my family about me 10 years ago, they probably would have rolled their eyes before answering. Not because I was funny, not because I was the black sheep in some rebellious, exciting way. No, in their version of the story, I was the disappointment, the daughter who couldn't get her life together, the one who ran away from responsibility, the girl who abandoned her family when things got hard. That's the story my mother told people, and for a long time, everyone believed her. But here's the thing people don't talk about enough. Sometimes the person who destroys your reputation isn't a stranger. It's the same person who used to pack your lunch for school, the same person who hugged you when you were little, the same person who told the world they loved you. So let me ask you something real quick. What would you do if the person who raised you slowly turned everyone you loved against you? What would you do if one lie followed you for years and no one ever bothered to ask if it was true? Because that's exactly what happened to me. And the wild part? The truth didn't come out because I fought back. The truth came out because of a 9-year-old kid and a dusty envelope nobody was supposed to find. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Before we go any further, if you've ever felt like the villain in someone else's story, even though you knew you weren't, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're new here, consider subscribing. Stories like this remind people they're not crazy and they're not alone. All right, let me take you back to the night everything fell apart. I was 23 years old, fresh out of college, broke, exhausted, and trying to figure out what the hell adulthood was supposed to look like. I had just moved back to my hometown in Ohio after graduating. It wasn't exactly the dream. Most of my friends had moved to big cities, Chicago, Austin, Seattle. Meanwhile, I was back in the same town where everyone still remembered what you looked like in middle school. But I told myself it was temporary. Just a few months, save some money, figure things out. My mom, Patricia Carter, was thrilled I moved back. At least, that's what I thought at first. She hugged me the day I arrived like she hadn't seen me in years. "Oh, honey, it's so good to have you home." For about 2 weeks, things were actually nice. Family dinners, coffee in the mornings, watching old movies on the couch. It almost felt like I had my family back. But then the little comments started. "You're still applying for jobs, right? You're not planning to stay here forever, are you? Your cousin Jake already bought a house." The thing about those comments, they weren't questions. They were tiny little reminders that I wasn't measuring up, and my mom had a special talent for delivering them with a smile. My dad mostly stayed quiet. He always had. He worked construction his entire life, and by the time he got home at night, he looked like a man who had already spent every ounce of energy he had. When my mom criticized me, he'd just sit there at the dinner table, poking at his food, not agreeing, not disagreeing, just quiet. At the time, I thought that meant he was staying neutral. Now I know better. Silence can hurt just as much as words, sometimes more. Anyway, 3 months after I moved back, something happened that changed everything. I got a job offer. Not a huge job, not some glamorous career, just a junior marketing position at a small company about 40 minutes away. But to me, it felt like a lifeline.
I remember running into the kitchen, waving the email on my phone. "Mom, I got it!" She looked up from the sink. "What job?" "The marketing one I interviewed for last week." "Oh." That was it. Just, oh. No hug, no congratulations, just a quiet little oh, like I had told her the weather forecast. I tried to ignore the weird feeling in my stomach. Maybe she was tired, maybe she was distracted. But later that night, I overheard something I wasn't supposed to hear. I was walking past the living room when I heard my mom on the phone with her sister, and she said something that made me stop cold in the hallway. She didn't really get the job, my mom said. She probably exaggerated the whole thing. My chest tightened. "I mean, you know, Leela," she continued. "She's always been a little dramatic." I stood there, frozen, listening. Honestly, I think she just made it up so we'd stop worrying about her. The call lasted maybe 5 more minutes, but in those 5 minutes, something inside me shifted. Because it wasn't just that she doubted me, it was the way she said it. Like the story was already decided. Like I was already the unreliable one. And that moment, that was the first time I realized something important. My mom didn't just misunderstand me. She needed me to be the problem. Because if I wasn't, then she wouldn't have a story to tell. And trust me, my mother loved telling stories. Over the next year, little things started happening. Weird things. Conversations that didn't make sense. Friends asking strange questions. A coworker once pulled me aside and said, "Hey, is everything okay with you?" "Yeah, why?" He hesitated. "Your mom told my aunt you were having some mental health issues." I just stared at him. "I'm sorry, what?" Apparently, my mom had been telling people I was struggling, that I couldn't handle pressure, that my job was too much for me. The crazy part? None of it was true. But lies have a funny way of spreading faster than the truth. And before long, the story about me wasn't mine anymore. It belonged to everyone else. And I didn't even know how bad it had gotten until the night I was told not to come home. That night started like any other. I was driving back from work, stuck in traffic, half listening to a podcast and half thinking about dinner, when my phone buzzed. It was a text from my mom. Just 6 words. "Don't come home tonight. We need space." I actually laughed when I read it. I thought it was a joke. But when I pulled into the driveway, my key didn't work. They had changed the locks. My bags were sitting on the porch. 2 trash bags full of clothes and a cardboard box. That was how I found out I no longer lived there. No conversation, no explanation, just bags on the porch. I called my mom. Straight to voicemail. I called my dad. Same thing. That was the night I slept in my car for the first time, and for the next 7 years, I barely spoke to my family at all. Not birthdays, not holidays, nothing. I built a life somewhere else. A small apartment, a new job, new friends, people who didn't already know who I was. And slowly, piece by piece, I started to believe I was more than the story my mother told. But here's the crazy part. Even after all those years, someone in my family had been watching from the sidelines, quietly, waiting. And the person who finally exposed the truth was the one person nobody expected. A kid, 9 years old, with a letter in her backpack and a question that changed everything. But that part of the story didn't happen until last winter. And trust me,